Welcome to the inner world of filmmaking. I'm your host, Tammy Magaro. I'm an editor, podcaster, and still photographer. In this show, I will interview filmmakers in all facets of production and distribution. In this episode, we're exploring the world of Philadelphia's production company, Three Left-Handed Women. We have the three co-founders, Suzi Nash, Phuong Nguyen, and Diana Hull. Welcome to the show, everyone.
Happy to be here.
Thank you so much for having us.
I mean, this is
We're
like
thrilled.
my biggest yet to do three people. I've only done two.
Oh,
so far.
wow.
Yeah. So I'm excited. It's like, woo, navigating. Well, thank you so much. The Women's Film Festival in Philadelphia, I heard about your production company through Monique Impagliazzo. So she was the one that introduced me to you guys. And I'm just so excited to have you and also to have a women's film festival. I mean, it's definitely needed. So I just wanted to bring you guys on to talk about that and three left-handed women. I mean, how cute that you all came together and then in particular said, hey, we're all like, how did that all begin? Just curious.
Well, there are an inordinate number of people who are left-handed who are in the creative arts. And there are also a higher percentage of presidents that are left-handed than most. I think Bill Clinton, Barack Obama. So we're in good company.
The way it came about was we met at my house, and we were eating, some really tasty Indian food and had a few bottles of wine. And we were talking about how we were going to name our company. Like, we were like, what do we all have in common? Like, what do we stand for? We were kind of talking about things we have in common. And the three of us are all very different people. So it is shocking that we would come together. I mean, we're all zany and we love the film industry, but I don't know if I would put us in a company together. And so we're like, what do we have in common? Okay, so we love film and, we're left-handed. And this was just an idea that we had. I forget who mentioned it. It might have been Suzi. And yeah, we couldn't think of anything else that fit us. So we're like, let's just go with that. It's quirky and zany like us. And yeah, it gets a lot of attention.
Yeah. And I'm a wannabe left-handed person. I born right, wish I was left. And out of my siblings, my brother is the only one that's left-handed in the family. So I always thought, God, you get to be the different one, because left-handed is so unique. And I think, you see more right-handed and everything is geared towards right-handed people. So yeah. That must be kind of frustrating for lefties to go, oh, wait, on some of the things that are predominantly right.
Well, usually it's more, the problem is we usually have scribble or ink on our hands from writing as we write. That's how you can tell the lefties half the time.
Oh, yeah. Scissors are so hard for me.
Yes, yeah.
But I kind of like it. It goes with who we are. We're just very different, kind of outside the box people. And yeah, it fits all of our personalities to be left-handed.
Yeah. And so you all met on the Women's Film Festival. Phuong, you're the co-creator, the co-founder. And then the other two, Diana and Suzi, you came on board. How did you get involved?
So I'm one of the co-founders out of two who founded the Women's Film Festival. It got started in a bathroom in Landmark. I was listening to a couple of women who were talking in the bathroom, and I was doing research for after parties for the Philadelphia Asian American Film Festival because I was the festival director for that, and then I stepped down to a lower role and just stayed on the board and was kind of helping coordinate the event. I overheard them talking, and we were both drunk. I said, "Oh, hey, I heard you talking about film. Let me know if I can help you." And I gave her my card, and she was like really excited. Christina May was also in the bathroom as well, and she kind of encouraged us to switch cards. So the other co-founder is Lee Marie Williams. She was a filmmaker at the time, and she made a short film with two other female friends of hers, and she was trying to find a way to showcase her film. And so I didn't think anything of it when I gave her my card. She followed up the next Monday. Usually some people don't even follow up. Probably 75% of people don't follow up. And we had lunch in Chinatown, and we were trying to think of ways to showcase her film. And I was like, well, her film was a really kind of unique art house type work, and I didn't know if there was any film festival in town that would fit in. I just kind of had an idea of like, oh, we should create a film festival. And there was already a horror film festival. Her short was a little bit kind of like horror. And I said, oh, there's no women's film festival. Why don't we, and then like both of our eyes kind of lit up. It's like, yeah, there's no women's film festival. And so we decided then there that we were going to create a women's film festival. We found out that March was Women's History Month. And so we had not that long to plan for the first one in March 2015. It was a 3-day film festival at the Ethical Society in Rittenhouse Square. And we had zero money. So we used a lot of our charm and some of the funds I helped back up the first film festival. And we made it happen. So that's how it got started.
Well, I've been programming films for QFest. Well, actually, originally for Piglet, which was the Philadelphia International Gay and Lesbian Film Festival, which then morphed into QFest and then morphed into QFlix, which I love doing, and I'm still doing that, actually. But it's a bit of a boys' club. And so I don't remember quite how, but I guess I stumbled onto the Women's Film Festival through meeting Phuong. Went to one of the screenings and went, wow, I did not know that we had this Women's Film Festival here. Maybe and I think I mentioned to Phuong or somebody, maybe I'll get involved next year. And so shortly after that, I got an email saying something about the first meeting for the Women's Film Festival. And that Susie, my name was on the list of people attending. And I went, oh, okay, I guess I'll be there. And then went to the first meeting and mentioned the work that I'd done with QFlix. And so they said, oh, well, then you should be the director of programming. So, it was thrust upon me.
Suzi, is it true that you also wanted to interview Phuong because Suzi has an article that she writes every week and she's always interviewing people in the LGBTQ community? Is that right?
Yeah, and actually I didn't remember that till, again, Phuong mentioned it last night. But yeah, so I write for the Philadelphia Gay News. I do a weekly column that I've been doing every week pretty much since 2005. So it's an exciting way. It's one of the things I enjoy because I actually get to meet a lot of the filmmakers, and I also get to highlight a lot of our filmmakers. I always make sure I sneak in one of ours when festival time comes around. And it's fun because actually that's actually kind of how I bonded with Monique, because I said to her, listen, we got the film festival coming. By any chance, would anybody in your production company be gay or LGBTQ? And she went, start with me.
All right.
And so I interviewed her for the paper. And that's how we kind of became, learned more about each other.
Ah, that's great. Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I've continued to be friends with her. I met her through someone else and had her on the podcast, and she's just so warm and vivacious and from Philadelphia.
Of
so
course.
There you have it. And then Diana, how did you become involved?
So I was just graduating college. I went back to college kind of later in life, did things in a different order than most. And yeah, I was taking a ton of theater classes and really falling in love with theater. And then at the same time, my husband, Wes Hall, was filming his first feature film called Welcome Home. And I was on set and just had this amazing feeling. Every aspect of it, the lighting, the setup, everybody getting into their costumes, the acting, it was just this like very magnetic feeling for me. And I knew that I wanted to be involved, but it was hard for me to fathom how I was even going to meet the right people, get my foot in the door. And so right after I graduated, I went out to lunch with Wes and a business friend of his named Kayla. And I was telling her that I was really passionate about film and working in the industry, but I had no experience. And so she had said, you have to come to Suzi's house. We have a monthly meeting for the Women's Film Festival. We're always looking for volunteers. and they are the perfect women to connect with. And so Suzi and Phuong opened up their doors to me, and I've been with them since 2017. And it's been really fun, too, being interviewed, the three of us together. We've never been interviewed together because a lot of the questions that you wanted to ask us, we had to talk about and think about, you know, how did we meet again? What year was that? And so it's been really fun, like just kind of remembering how the three of us came to be.
Memories.
Yeah.
So, why is it important to have a festival for women?
Well, Phuong will get to, a little bit more of the heart of it, but some of it's just, if you look at the statistics, and I was actually just trying to write some of them down, just of how many women or films feature women. A statistic I quickly looked at, it said 85% of films feature more men than women. And then when you have female directors or producers, that number goes up considerably. In the film industry, cinematographers, I think only 2% of cinematographers are women. Just the statistics are pretty abysmal. And one of the reasons is that, women aren't getting support that they should. So that's part of what makes our festival, I think, special, above some of the others, and even other women's film festivals, is that we really concentrate on making it a filmmaker-forward festival. So we do a lot of meet and greets, we do a lot of networking, and we really encourage our filmmakers to get to know each other and to work together. And so as a result, a lot of projects have come out of people meeting other people. If you look on our Film Freeway, I'll pull up maybe some of the accolades that we've been given, and people have just been, raving about how they just had so much fun and just got to, learn so much from other people and learn things about themselves. And the stories that we hear are so much fun. So I think it's a way for us to commune together, to learn about, what's happening in the film industry, and also to sometimes see what's on people's minds. Because I think in addition to the technical side of it, I think just in terms of women finding a place to tell the stories they want to tell, a lot of times there's not a place for them to show them. So they might make an incredible story about domestic violence or about abortion or about a lot of the subjects that are kind of taboo. And those are films that we like to screen. And a lot of times filmmakers will say to us, like, we couldn't find any place else mainstream that would screen some of these films.
Oh, wow. That's really sad.
Yeah.
But great that you have a festival that honors that. What's the criteria? I mean, is it female directors or, female crew or just a producer? Like, how does somebody submit their film?
We're pretty broad-based with that, I think, which also makes us a little bit unique. Our tagline is kind of films that are by, for, or about women. So we've had male directors, with female protagonists. We've had female directors. We actually had one director who's been our biggest champion. And part of it's because she did this beautiful film about war. And it was two men. I think one was, do you remember, Phuong, was it Vietnamese or Korean?
Yes, one was Vietnamese,
Yeah.
another one was American soldier.
Yeah, and they were caught in like a foxhole, one of those pits together. And they ended up having to communicate and lift each other up to get out of it. And as they get out, the one man suddenly realizes there are American soldiers around him, and they kill the Vietnamese guy. As he's saying no, because they had made friends. There were no women in the film, but it was a female director, female producer, female stunt coordinator, and to me, the film had a female sensitivity, so we programmed it. And that director said, you were the only female film festival that would program this film. And so, as I said, she's been, I think, in fact, she and Monique might be doing something together, I believe, or at least sharing some references.
I do think that's the one special. I mean, there's so many special things about Suzi and Phuong in the festival, but I know from the beginning, from meeting them, that they are a very inclusive people. They always want everyone to feel like they can be a part of it. It's not just a women's club. Men are more than welcome to participate. And I think that the most important thing for Phuong when, co-founding this, and for Suzi when she does programming, is making sure that artists, especially women, but all artists, feel like they can share their stories in a fair and respectful environment. And so I think that is, one of the reasons why this is needed. And also too, for, like Suzi said, just uplifting filmmakers, networking, sharing stories that aren't going to be shared anywhere else. Phuong and Suzi are really selective about what they pick. They want to make sure that everybody gets a turn on the screen. Every story gets shared. And so, there's so many special things, but those are just a few of them and why it's needed.
Well, and I love the networking opportunity. I know Monique had mentioned that. I think what we forget is sometimes, we isolate ourselves in our own little community, but it's so important to network and to take ourselves outside of ourselves sometimes, to meeting other people, and other people want to meet us as well. And I think that that's just so wonderful that you guys all come together to help people be seen at your event.
Yeah. And I think some of the stories that are shared too, I think make people feel more comfortable about what they're doing. Again, a quick one was it was one girl who was saying that at one of the Q&As with this director that she really wanted to meet, they were doing questions at the front. And so she went to go walk up to the microphone and she tripped and just full out, fell on her face.
Oh, no.
And she said, I was so horribly embarrassed. But then a few months later, she was at another festival and that director was there and she was able to say hey, I don't know if you remember me, I'm the one who tripped. And the director was like, oh, I remember you. And she actually ended up interning for her.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So for people hear these stories about, if you fall on your face, it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, you will be remembered one way or another. Yeah, no, I think that that's wonderful that also, I just love that point that you just made about meeting people. I went on your website and I was looking at some of the films and I was like, I should reach out to them, but I wouldn't have known had I not known about you to go look and then to see what films aired or played at the festival. So I think what an opportunity to be able to reach out to other people that maybe your worlds don't come together. Because I think she lives in another country, I think. The one I was thinking of, I'm sorry, I can't remember her name. It was Bunny, something Bunny. It was
yeah.
Justice the Bunny
Justice
King.
the Bunny King. Yeah.
Yeah, that looked, I didn't see the film. I just was reading about it. I was like, oh, that looks interesting and stuff. And that it would be nice to interview the director on that film and how she made it. And I'm always, but you never know where you're going to meet people. That's what the wonderful thing is. If you take yourself outside of your home, and get out there and meet people.
Yeah.
Just so hard. Yeah. It's so hard to get outside the home.
Yeah. So, Suzi, you're the director of programming.
Yes.
So do you have some tips on do's and don'ts of submitting?
Yeah, we have a couple. I think one of the first things is to know what film festivals you're submitting to. Mm-hmm. Especially as a programmer for QFlix, for the Gay and Lesbian Film Festival, it's amazing how many films come in. And in my notes, I have NGC, which stands for no gay content. And people will submit films and they have absolutely nothing to do with anything gay whatsoever. Or the Women's Film Festival. Sometimes it's not quite as much there, but you'll find somebody who will put in a film that would have no meaning to us whatsoever. And so you feel bad because it's just sort of a waste of money. But yeah, so kind of know what film festivals you're entering. Do your research. A big one is, I would say, always include a phone number. We've had several films that I tried to program, and sometimes there were actually a few of them that were from students that when they submitted them, because of the pandemic, we ended up having to bump the festival a year. I tried to program them, and they all had student email addresses, which were no longer valid, and there was no way for me to contact them. So there were some people who didn't get in just because there was no way to get a hold of them. So always make sure you get your contact information, right?
Right.
Those are two to start off with.
Is it important to, I know it is on Film Freeway, put your bio in there, give a lot of information, log line, is that, should filmmakers really fill out everything and make sure that it's, has everything that somebody would want to to know about? Because I think sometimes we just maybe half-ass put our stuff up there. I don't know. Is that your experience where they don't give you, like some people probably give great presentations and others give you barely anything?
Yeah. No, I think it's definitely, I read all that when it comes in. I mean, some film, I think it's about 50-50 or maybe 70-30. The 70% of the programmers that I know will read all that stuff. And to me, it does make a difference. I mean, we're human and we get swayed. And if you tell us a really good story, one, I know that that's going to be a story that you're going to tell, hopefully, if you come to the festival, or a story that I can tell when I'm talking to the press about the festival. Like this, this filmmaker came from, this place and has, overcome these obstacles to be able to tell this story. So that's important to me. I would also say to let the filmmakers know if you could, the festivals know if you're going to be able to attend in person, let them know. I had a short film that was a 3.5 minute film, not even all that good. And, I call it the 3 minutes that took me around the world. Because when I sent it out, I wrote, I'd gotten a grant and I said, I'm hoping if this gets picked that I can come to the festival. And for festivals to be able to say like, oh, we had this many international filmmakers here, might give you a slight edge over somebody else.
Uh-huh. Now, what do you feel is the percentage of people that get in and then attend?
We have a pretty good rate for that. I'd say about 40% maybe.
And we have a lot of people who come from, all over the world too. Yeah. People travel far to come to the festival, which is incredible.
Yeah. Phuong, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
I'm just very polite. I like to let... just kidding. No, why do we do the film festival? I did it so that it could create environments for women to support other women and to, but not really ostracize men at the same time. It was never about competing. It was about working together and collaborating, that men shouldn't be scared to let women take the reins sometimes, and that it might actually end up being a really great film. My thing was about creating a very soft influence and putting a light on women and helping their growth, whether it was their first full-length feature film, their first short film, or music video. We had a filmmaker, our opening night film, but she also had a film herself. She had a full-length film, was trying to find film festivals to screen it at. And it was called Carrie Pilby. And I said, sure. I read it and I saw it. And it was shown at the Toronto International Film Festival. And we played it. We got to meet her, Susan Johnson. She said that it was really important that her film got played in Philadelphia because she did a lot of interviews during that time. And Hollywood's all about the numbers and where you play your films and how many people end up going there. And so it helped her stats as a filmmaker. And then, and we were Facebook friends and stuff like that. And I started following her and I started to see that she was in Vancouver and that her next full-length feature project involved an Asian American actress as her lead. And I was like, whoa, this is really cool. And then lo and behold, like a year later, her film comes out and it's All the Boys I Loved Before, which is a very popular Netflix film.
Yes.
And so I was really kind of astounded that someone like her, who was up and coming, who used the film festival as a support way to help her get to the next level. Not that we directly helped her, but indirectly kind of helping her create the buzz that she needed, the numbers that she needed, so that she could really market herself a lot better. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know who's going to be the next big thing. Another story is that while she was unknown at the time, she submitted 2 short films, another director, and Suzi found out that she has a really famous last name, and it was Chalamet. She happened to be the sister of Timothy Chalamet, but she was still not known yet. And and she had 2 shorts at our film festival, year 3 and year 4. And we stayed in contact with her, and then lo and behold, we see her on HBO.
Oh, wow.
So the funny thing with that was she was in Paris at the time, I think, working on another film. And so she wanted to come to Philly, but said, listen, I don't know if I have the funds to, fly in and get hotel. Do you guys have hotel accommodations and stuff? And I said, unfortunately, we don't have a hotel sponsor, but, I can see if one of our volunteers can put you up. And I said, or worst to worst, you can sleep on my couch. And she was like, all right, that might be cool. And then so when I found out who she was, I was like, well, hot dang, I almost had Patricia, Pauline Chalamet on my couch.
Right, yeah. So I was just curious, like, do you get, I know, didn't Sherry O'Terry?
Sherry O'Terry, yeah.
Yeah, she was at your festival. Do you get a lot of stars coming that are in the films?
Sometimes.
We haven't had so many attending that much, although we've one of the things we've been doing is having some of the filmmakers, if they're working on other projects, or the artist, send us little clips just saying like, hey, sorry I couldn't be there, but thank you for showing my film stuff. We had, I think, the year before last, I think we had 3 different people from Downton Abbey.
Oh, wow.
From different films. and
I mean, that must be pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Now, do all 3 of you get to watch all the films?
I do all of them.
Do you mean the films that are submitted, or this? Okay, so yeah, obviously Suzi watches everything,
yes,
which is insane. I mean, how many submissions do you get a year? How many submissions do we get a year?
400 to 500.
Well, she watches all of them.
Oh my gosh.
And Phuong watches a lot of them too. I probably watch the least. I know, like, they have nights where they pull all-nighters and just watch a ton of films, and Suzi will have parties where we can kind of screen some of them. But Suzi usually sends us the ones she's not sure about,
right?
Which is really fun. Ones that she's really impressed by. So, so we get to watch some of them. I mean, I get to watch some of them. Phuong watches a lot of them, and Suzi watches all of them.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, that must be fun, though, if you get together with a bunch of people to watch it. Do you guys talk through them, or do you wait until after the film and then start, chiming in? And I'm sure you have judges, too, right? Or no?
Sometimes.
Sometimes we have people help us watch the films. Sometimes we don't. Depends on what happens that year. If people can volunteer their time, especially through the pandemic, we lost a bunch of people. Because it was a tough time. And I think, like, we do try to have other people watch the films and see and judge them, and give different opinions. There's some where me and Suzi really agree on and said, yes, for sure, this one is the top one. And we both agreed to put it in. And then there's times where we disagree on the films. And then we let Diana or somebody else be kind of like judge.
We've never talked about it, but we all wait till the short or the movie's over, and then we discuss. So it's really nice that we're all on the same page with that, because, sometimes Suzi and Phuong will be showing me something that Phuong loves and Suzi doesn't love. And I don't know who loves it and who doesn't. And it's just kind of fun. It's like a fun thing for us to bond on and do together.
Yeah,
right.
I've always been a bit of a taskmaster, even just personally when friends come over to watch TV with me. I'm just like, for football, I'm like, all right, there is no non-football related conversations going on right now. Cell phones go in the corner. So I get to be a little bit of a taskmaster with that.
Well, I mean, I think it's good to be unbiased, so that when you go in and you have the experience, then you guys can share afterwards, instead of being influenced by what somebody thinks of the movie, and then you're going in looking in that lens. I was also thinking, like, probably another, like, don't is make sure your audio is good in the film. I mean, I judged one, I helped a friend of mine who had a festival, and I was watching some of the films. It's a lot. I mean, it's a little daunting how many films, and especially the different lengths. Do you ever give feedback? Because sometimes I think it would be nice. I know that would 400, 500, you're not going to give feedback to everybody like, oh, you could work on these things. Do you ever give feedback, or is there an additional cost to get feedback? Or if somebody emails you, would you give feedback on their film?
Yes, we would give feedback. on their film. It's just a matter of you asking us if you want it or not. And I think we've always been pretty generous with that. And I know that Susie, in her welcome notes or sometime in her decline notes, depending on the film, she'll put a little bit of why. Not always, but sometimes if she feels compelled. But no, it's always about, we don't do an extra cost for that. And it was always about supporting, being a filmmaker is really hard. It's really financially, cumbersome. So our thing was just supporting women, however best we can, if we can do that with our advice. Actually with a woman, at our last film festival, she came up to me because I did a workshop, and I was like, well, what can I do to help my group of people in my workshop to be better filmmakers? And I agreed to watch one of their shorts and give them one-on-one feedback, and I gave her feedback on her film. One of them was that her audio was not great, but also she had a lot of talking heads and other things. And I said, if you really want this film to be in film festivals, you really have to make it compelling. You really have to fix your audio, and other things. And she came back a couple years later. Yeah, so she came back at the last film festival, and she came up to me. She's like, hey, I want to show you something. And I didn't recognize her at first because I didn't know who she was. She said, I want you to know that you helped me a few years back. I listened to some of the things you said, some of the things I didn't listen to. She got accepted in over 30 film festivals with, over 30 accolades. And she just wanted to thank me for doing that for her. It really made my day. Putting a film festival is really hard.
Oh, yeah.
It's very cumbersome, especially if you're doing it on a volunteer basis and really kind of putting in a lot of your time, like Susie, Diana, and all the other staff members do, because you're simply just want to see a different world. You want a different world for your daughters, your nieces, or just the random girl that's in the classroom that wants to be a filmmaker. You just want to see that they have the equal opportunity that they deserve. And that's why we do what we do, and why we're trying to put any more financial hardship on the filmmakers. I mean, if we raised money and we were able to bring all the filmmakers that we accepted to the film festival, we would certainly do it. But we're on a budget, and we have to do what we can with what we have and things like that.
How many films do you typically run every night? So out of like 400, 500 submissions, how many actually get seen?
I'd say about 25%. Mm-hmm.
I'm sure this is clear, but this is just in case. It's we're all based in Philadelphia, and the festival is in Philadelphia. And the festival, like Phuong said earlier, started as a 3-day festival, and now it's to 10, 12 days.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Yeah, 10 days.
10 days, yeah.
Yeah.
And to Phuong's point about we would love to be able to fly out all of the filmmakers. Anyone listening to this and who has a lot of money, we are always welcoming donations to our cause. So that's that. All right.
How do they do that? How do they give you donations?
Well, they can email me. Right now, we're still updating our website, and that'll get updated soon. On top of being the co-founder and executive director, sometimes I'm the graphic designer, or sometimes I'm the volunteer, and I'm the tech person. Just like Susie is sometimes the brunch coordinator, as well as the programmer, as well as the tour guide of Philadelphia to all our filmmakers to make sure that they feel the Philadelphia welcome. So we wear a lot of hats.
Yeah. But usually right before the festival, maybe a month or two leading up to it, we have packages that Phuong puts together for people to make donations, and those are usually available on the website or on social media.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Do you mind me asking about the films that you watch? What are the biggest, maybe helpful tips? Like we mentioned, audio. that a filmmaker, maybe everybody could chime in on something that they think or see that could help filmmakers when they're or even before they're submitting, actually before they're shooting the film, to think about when they shoot a film. Each person, could we talk about some tips that you've seen?
Sure. I mean, I know if you were listening to me watching some of these films when I'm by myself, I might sound like a crazy person because I'm yelling at the TV going, cut already. That people just like fall in love with their shots. And a film that would have been a really great 8-minute film, really nice and tight, is now 13 minutes or 17 minutes. And although the subject matter might have been good, it's just, I can't give up that much of a chunk of time unless it's a really tight, really good film. So that's the thing. Definitely less is more. Constantly think about that, cutting out. And then, as you said, just to reiterate on that audio, I was on a on a programmer's panel not long ago. And somebody mentioned audio, and everybody on the panel went, "Oh, that's the worst."
Yeah.
That's definitely a something that'll kill your project right off the bat, no matter how good it is.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, well, specifically documentaries, there's nothing that kills it more than too much talking heads. The amount of documentaries I've seen where it's just people talking and then people watching that. So film is a visual arts, format, and you really need to keep people's attention spans. And so if I can't sit through it for 20, 30 minutes, talking heads, it's going to lose my interest. And I'm just being really honest with that, because if other people watch it, and some of the topics are really interesting, but if it's not interesting and it's too much, like, Susie said, I just want you to cut it and do something different. You have to be able to tell stories in a different way, in a nuanced way. And I kind of want to push filmmakers for that. Figure out how to tell these stories in a very different way, because that's what distributors are looking for. That's what Hollywood is looking for. They're looking for something new. And you can tell your story, and make it compelling, and that's great. And maybe it will make it in, and maybe it won't. But it's all about the storytelling, the pacing. I can't tell you enough about how people pace things it doesn't feel natural. And so that's also a thing. And then I think the film itself has a really natural rhythm to itself. And if you listen to the film, you'll hear it. And don't rush into things. Don't rush into pre-production. Don't rush into production. Don't rush your shots. Don't rush editing. You really need to take that time to really make a quality product. It's a lot of work just to make a short. Imagine I'm making a full-length film and taking all that time, and it goes nowhere and no one watches it. It's heartbreaking. I'm kind of being like harsh here, but I want people to be better. I want them to grow. I want them to improve, and I want them to show people in Hollywood and everyone else that they can do it just as good or better to tell stories in a creative way, in a meaningful way.
And also don't be afraid, and get in there and talk to other filmmakers, volunteer with other filmmakers. And I mean, there's always going to be someone who's going to, want volunteers to help out. It's pretty rare. Go to your film festival or your film office if your city has one. I know in Philadelphia they have a board where you go on there and see when people are looking for crew to help out on projects, and start learning the craft that way. It's an easy way to do it. You don't necessarily have to go to film school. I worked on a feature film, which I won't mention which one, but the director, who's an Oscar-winning director now, would sit there and go with it. He knew nothing about filming and would sit there and go like, "Oh, wait, what's that shot when they go like left to right?" And I was like, "A pan?" And he was like, "Yeah, write that down. I want a bunch of those in this scene." And what about when they come and, we were just watching movies and he was picking out shots that he liked from movies and saying like, "All right, write that down, write down the time code so I can tell the cinematographer." And as I said, he's now an Oscar-winning film director. So, don't be afraid. Just kind of get in there and get your feet wet.
Yeah.
And to add on to what Susie's saying is, I think anyone going into a film endeavor should be so proud of themselves if they come out with a finished project. because it is so hard. There's so many things you have to do to accomplish a short or a feature film or a documentary. So I think, first off, if you get there, just give yourself a big pat on the back. And I think beforehand, some tips would be to, think about what you want out of this film. Why are you doing it? How are you going to do it? I think that a lot of filmmakers have the creative aspect and they have a certain vision, but you have to think about how is this going to be lucrative? Like, that is part of it. How are you going to get the shot? Like, do you have a budget? Do you have a schedule? Do you have the right talent, funding, all those things? And, as producers, the three of us, like, we often have to kill some of the creativeness to be like, how is this going to get made? Like, we have the material, but how is this going to get made? So I think that that's important for filmmakers to think about. At the same time, they're creating, whatever they're making. And then, if you don't have funding, try to, enlist as many people as possible to help you. So many people in this industry are, wanting to help. A lot of the things we do, we just do, for free because we want to support, and likewise with other people who are helping us. So I think those two things are really important to think about.
I like that. Yeah.
Because always feed your crew.
Always feed your crew. Oh, here's one. Feed your editor too.
Yes.
People forget the editor.
The editor is important. They tell the story. They
make or break it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's it's a lot of work to make a film. And, I was, like I said, I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to watch films so that it helps me to grow. And I always think it's good to have constructive criticism because don't we all want to get better? So it's great that I loved all of what you said about that. I think it's really important to remember those kind of things. And also maybe to people in the film, not your friends, but maybe filmmakers watch your film and give you some constructive criticism or constructive input. How do you say that nicer? But just, to help you out, and especially maybe even beforehand. I mean, it's kind of hard once you filmed it to go back. Maybe in editing, you could fix some things. Definitely you can shorten it, but sometimes it's, it could be with the script too, is like there's problems in the script. And to go deeper, I think sometimes I've read some scripts and they seem a little like one-dimensional, and it's tough to really dive deeper and go, what is the meaning of this? Is there an arc going on or not, to have a really good story?
It's like kind of like, what are you trying to say? What are you trying, who is your audience? And what do you want them to know? And things like that. And I was going to say the same thing in sense, and then you beat me to it, is that don't always wait till post to fix it. You have to fix it before post, because post is hard to fix. It's incredibly hard for the editor.
I know. Editors hate, well, we can fix it in post. What?
No. No.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good point. And just wanted to talk about that just in closing is maybe some tips that when people are submitting their films and they go to the film festivals, what are some tips that they should do? I know that a lot of times some of us can be a little shy and think of these directors as these high and mighty people. Do you have any suggestions in networking or when you come to a festival, come with a focus in mind?
Definitely. I mean, I think that you should make the most out of the festival. You're there, you're maybe traveling from out of town. I get incredibly anxious and shy around new groups of people, but I think that you have to kind of put yourself out there. And you'll come to find that most people are also putting themselves out there too and are in the same place you're in. So yeah, I think it's like just kind of thinking about what you want out of what you want out of these festivals and how you can do that. And really the best way is just to start conversations with people. And like Suzi said, you know, you're going to meet incredible people that you can learn a lot from.
And if you have a chance, try to come maybe a day early and stay late. You know, if you're a filmmaker who has a film, try to come a day early so you can see some other people's films, so that when you go to brunch, you can say like, hey, you know, the director of such and such, I really liked your film, you know, and most people open up to compliments. I know I do.
Yeah. Talking about how personal the festival is, one of the really nice touches that Phuong and Suzi have added to this 10-day festival is they always have 2 filmmakers brunches, where all the filmmakers who are there for their films can get together and just kind of network. And yeah, that's a great way, you know, if you submit your film and you get in, that's a great way to just really meet new people from all over the world. And, you know, you can talk to Suzi and Phuong. And for me, they've been probably my 2 biggest mentors in the film industry. And so it's really special to have that individual time with them.
I think also like it's about creating your opportunity. I mean, I kind of fell into the film festival circuit by accident, but I was a theater minor, and I was doing counseling and other jobs that not related to film and theater. And I saw there was a Philadelphia Asian American Film Festival, and so I was like, oh wow, that's so cool. I guess if I can't be an actor, I can at least be a part of it, right? So I volunteered as an usher. That's how I started. I volunteered as an usher. And then as things went on, as the years went on, they were asking for volunteers for staff for the Philadelphia Asian Film Festival, and so I volunteered to be part of staff. And after the first year of volunteering for staff, I was then asked to be the festival director.
Wow.
So, and then that's how I got my experience to create the Women's Film Festival. And so then just like the Women's Film Festival started out 3 days, and then like in a very small venue, and then kind of went bigger to 10 days. Also, the venues that we've been able to show at have been we've grown a lot. I mean, we showed at the Kimmel Center, which is our most premium venue. We showed at the Philadelphia Museum of Art. We showed at the Masonic Temple, Suzanne Roberts Theater, Neighborhood House, an array of venues. Some of them who have been very kind and gave us the space for free or for discount, and things like that. So, when I look back, it's like, wow, I was just a volunteer usher who wanted a free T-shirt, and now here I am creating film puzzles, right? Trying to produce film. But
I hope you saw that T-shirt.
Yeah, but I think if you don't have anything, like if you have no money, you're a filmmaker, you're a student, volunteer some of your time so you can learn about the business, learn about filmmaking, learn about volunteering at film festivals. They always take volunteers usually. And here's a tip: if you're a good writer and you're part of a newspaper column, you can get free press badges. The things like Sundance and Tribeca, if you write for things like that. So, and there's another way in as well if you're a great writer. So, it's all about just trying to find your way and creating an opportunity for yourself and kind of thinking outside the box how to get to the next step.
Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with Lisa Cortez, but she's Academy Award-winning producer, director. I'm trying to look at some of the films that she's done. I mean, she's done amazing things. Of course, I can't get through the IMDb right now. But anyway, she screened a short film at our festival. And one of the things she was saying that really impressed her was because, I mean, as I said, she's big time. You see her at all the Oscars, like near the front row. And she said that a few times she's been to film festivals, and she had one person who came up to her, and instead of saying like, hey, I want to get in films, what can I do, blah, 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 this person said, you're doing such amazing work. Is there anything I can do to help you? And she said, I was so taken aback that she actually started working with the person, and I think the person ended up becoming an assistant or something. Because she said, I'm so used to everybody wanting something from me. It was so nice to have somebody turn around and say, what can I do to help you?
I think that's a good reminder for all is if you're reaching out to somebody, it is about what can you do for them, not what they can do for you, because they don't know you. And you have to build a connection with them. And I thought that was some great tips about volunteering, volunteer your time. That's a way to network, to get to know people, to be involved, to learn. And then also, another one is social media. Follow people on social media and then comment on, their posts and stuff. And that's another way to get to know people too. And reach out, DM them. A lot of people
Song is good
respond.
about that. I'm terrible.
Well, that's good to know.
Well, here's my
Suzi
thing.
just finally accepted my friend request on Facebook. We started a company before we became friends on social media.
Oh, okay. Well, sometimes, step by step, right?
Also another thing too, like something that we do personal for the Women's Film Festival is I also keep tabs on our volunteers as well and saying, how can I help you later on because you volunteered for our film festival. And so I do follow them, and I keep tabs on them, and if they need like a letter of recommendation, I usually try to write one. Hopefully if they were a good volunteer, sometimes but part of what makes our film festival also special is that we're always we know why people volunteer, we know why people get in our film festival, and it's like, well, how do we help? And I think because of that attitude, how do we help? I think things kind of grew for us in a sense.
I just wrote one for Tess not long ago.
Yeah. So.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for listening. I encourage you to get out there and make a film. Reach out to your local filmmakers group to get involved and connect. Please subscribe to the show if you like it, and follow me on Instagram @TammyMcGarrow. Until we meet again, what's your story?